On our home page, we're going to install a few more plugins and a little bit more functionality. We're going to use a plugin called AnyStretch, and what that will do is take a background image and stretch it to the necessary size to cover the full designated area, whatever you assign to it. You can make an image any size you like. I'm going to suggest 800 by 600 pixels. You can make any photo, you can make a photo or whatever. I made a blank canvas 800 by 600, and I set the foreground color to a gray and the background color to a white. I used the paint bucket tool, filled it in with gray, and then I went to filter and render, and you could use either the difference clouds or the regular clouds, and I used just the cloud filter, and it produced this nice effect. Now you need to save this, and if you save it, you could save it pretty low quality. Why? Because it's a background image. So save for web, and ping would make it a little too large, so I'm going to go with JPEG, but I can go with low quality to bring that size down. It's only about 7.5K, and you will save it in the proper folder, and you're good to go. I'll save this, and I'll call this back one. Now I already have a back one in my folder. I'll just overwrite it for now. Okay, I simply repeated this process. With a blue background and a red background. Now, I also need a smaller file of this. So you take this particular file before you save it in a different color, and we'll resize it. Image size, and you can experiment. I'm going to keep constrained proportions checked, all of these checked, and I'll change this to maybe 20 pixels wide, 20 by 15, and I get this very, very small little graphic, which is fine for me. File, save for web. Again, I'll use JPEG, and because it's so small, I can actually make this very high quality, and it's still very, very small. And I'll save it as, this time I'll call it back one underscore small. Well, you're going to need to do that for 3 different colors for this particular project. You could extend it and do more. All right, let's go back to Dreamweaver. Back in Dreamweaver, I have inserted the 3 smaller graphics that we created just previously and inserted them appropriately somewhere on the page. Very important, if I click each image, I link it to nothing, which an easy way to do that is a pound sign, so it does function as a link. And this is extremely important. Every element, if you want to control it with JQuery and JavaScript, you must give it a unique ID name. So I called this gray. And traditionally, whenever you make a link, if it's an image, you always put an alt message describing what the link will do. Here, I simply typed in click to change background. You're going to repeat that with all 3 of these icons. Finally, if you don't like where these small images are, you can line them center easily. Just right mouse click, align center, and you're good to go. Now we're going to move down to the source code, and I'll show you what we'll have to do. We have the images to click, but to start off with, we're going to load back the back one image. And here's how you would do it in the JavaScript section, and I'll add it first because this is the first thing that I want to have happen. To address jQuery, we always start with a $sign. Because we're addressing the entire body, we simply leave that blank, and jQuery understands that to mean the full body of the page. A dot separator, what is the plugin, AnyStretch, and reading the plugin instructions, I know that I point to the image that I want to have blend in or fade in, and then there's a very specific way to set this up with a curly Q brace, speed colon, and the speed that it'll fade in. I said 2000 milliseconds or 2 seconds. You close with the brace and close with the parentheses, and it's customary to end with a semicolon. So now if you save the page and view this in the browser, you'll see that a background image covers the full screen no matter what size my browser window is, and it makes it a soft gray. The next step will be to add functionality to these small images so that when I click them, I actually change the background. We now have to create click functions for each of those graphics. Here's how it is done. You're referencing jQuery, so somewhere in the open area of my text block for JavaScript, my JavaScript block, I add a $sign, and then the graphic or the ID that I'm addressing is pound gray, and it's in quotes or single quote. Dot, that's the dot separator. The function is click. This is a jQuery function. And now we're going to open up a function. You use this particular syntax, and I use $sign because again I'm referring to jQuery dot and any stretch. In this case I don't have to identify anything. It's applying to the entire body, and I change it to back 1 and make that speed 2000 milliseconds and close off the function. Once I have that done, all I have to do is copy it and change the parameters for blue and change the parameters for red. If I save the page and view it in the browser, you'll see what it does. Here's our page. When it loads, you'll see the gray image fade in. If I click on the red small graphic, it will change gradually to red. Here it'll change to blue, and here it'll change back to gray. So we're all set with a background image. Very, very cool plugin. We've just finished the AnyStretch plugin, and by the way, to make that plugin work, you obviously need the jQuery file installed on your page, and you need the AnyStretch file plugin installed on your page. Next, we're going to work with the Transify plugin. You need that installed on your page as well. We've already done that. Now I'll find a division, any division. I'm going to choose this particular one, which is inside right lower box. I made the background a different color. Now if I go to source code, all I have to do is add a little more JavaScript in our JavaScript block way down here at the bottom. You can put these in just about any order you like. And here is the exact syntax for that particular function. A $sign because I'm referring to jQuery, parentheses, and in quotes I identify the division name with a pound sign and the division name. I separate with a dot. I type in Transify with the parentheses and the open brace, and then I put in all of the parameters, and finally I close with the curly Q brace and the parentheses and a semicolon. So now if I save the page and view it in the browser, if I hit refresh, we've added quite a lot of functionality. And what will happen over here, when the mouse moves over this division, you'll see it fade in gradually to its full color. And you can change parameters in the JavaScript to change the degree of opacity and things like that. And we can also, of course, change the background colors. So it's kind of fun for the end user.